How good are the New York Jets? Find out now. All right, welcome back, guys. I'm Jake Ellenbogen, and today we're going to be talking about the New York Jets. It's been a while, and I'm going to restart. We're going to keep doing our Jets content. It's gotten crazy over here on the channel, and so I figured it's time to put out a Jets video. So, if you are new to the channel, I do cover both the Jets and Rams. If you're watching this over on the Jets-centric channel, I also cover the Rams, so that's why all the Rams stuff is everywhere. But I want to talk about the Jets. I've watched every game. I've watched every game in all 22. I have gone through all the stats, all the analytics, and I got to tell you, I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised by the way they're playing. I'm not surprised with the start they've had. I'm not surprised they're 4-2 and with the potential of being 5-2 after this Broncos game. They have played some good football. There are some issues, but I think when you look at what Mike LaFleur is doing on the offensive coordinator side, and in addition to that, what Robert Saleh is doing, they're managing the game in a way that it's not going to kill you if you don't have the passing attack. And so that is why, despite the fact that Zach Wilson hasn't looked any bit as good as I believe he can be, and I do think a lot of that is because he's coming off this injury, that is why they are 3-0 with Zach Wilson. They're 4-2, and the Jets are in contention in the AFC East, believe it or not. Now, it's gotten crazy. When Tua was healthy, the Dolphins looked crazy. They looked very good. You look now at the Patriots. The Patriots look like a completely different animal with a new quarterback. We'll see if they keep Bailey Zappi in, but regardless, whoever's running the football, whether it's Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Harris, the Patriots are running the ball. They're playing good defense on the other end, and they look good. But then you can't just, obviously the Bills, but then you can't look away from the Jets because the Jets are beating the Packers. They're beating the Browns. They beat the Steelers. I don't think they're getting some credit, but they're not getting enough credit. And so I think the Packers game was finally the one to kind of put it out there like, okay, this team is legit and it's time to start paying attention. And that is where I'm at with the Jets. Like I said, I've been following them all year. Well, I had stopped putting out videos for a little bit because I've gotten so busy with everything, starting a new podcast and everything. That doesn't change the fact that I've watched this team. And I've watched every game. They're 10th in points per game this year. They're 12th in passing yards. They're 18th in rushing yards per game. 17th in points allowed per game. They're 23rd DVOA offense, which is 25th passing offense, and 13th rushing offense. 12th in DVOA defense, which is 15th passing, and 12th the run defense. And then 3rd in DVOA special teams. Let's just dive into it, right? Zach Wilson is off to a slow start. He is. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I like the guy a lot. I believe in him, but he's off to a slow start. And I think when you look at, managing the game and not turning the ball over being like really the focal point when you have the pass rush that the Jets have, we'll get into that later on in the video, but you have the pass rush they have, you have the weapons, just the way the defense is playing and the way the special teams unit is playing, there's no need to take chances. When you're up, there's no need to take chances. And so Wilson's been really good in the fourth quarter of games, but they've really kind of gone ahead and just taken it slow with him. And I think the playbook is going to open up. I think more things will be there for Wilson as he gets more comfortable. But he's coming off an injury that a lot of us thought was the end of his season in preseason. Let's not forget about that. So while, that being said, you look at Joe Flacco, he threw 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 901 yards in the same amount of games as Zach Wilson, who's only thrown 572, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Like, they're different animals. The pass rush wasn't, or not the pass rush, but the pass protection was awful when Flacco was playing. And it's starting to get better with Zach Wilson, so it's opening up opportunities. They're also getting really good in the run game, which I'll get into. But he has the most time to throw in the league right now at 3.2 seconds, according to NFL Next Gen Stats. So that says something. The offensive line, even though it's makeshift, even though they have been doused with injuries. Let's not even hold it back here. Mekhi Becton out. You look at, Fant. Fant is out. I mean, they have had all sorts of injuries. Even Max Mitchell, really unfortunate there. Now they have, a whole new offensive line, and they've found some success. They got to keep it up, obviously, but they found some success. And I expect soon that is more, basically more reps for Zach Wilson. He is going to eventually get into that rhythm. No, I don't think it's against the Denver Broncos that held Justin Herbert to no touchdowns passing for the first time in 26 games or whatever. But I think it's coming. I think Zach Wilson is a few weeks away from really starting to blow up and get comfortable again. And we'll see that. But that's kind of where I'm at. Right now, I think the script is more about running the football and playing good defense, and it's working. And the Jets aren't just going to change what they're doing and change and go away from what's working just to get Zach Wilson's stats, right? What's working is you got to keep it, because that's why they're 4-2, they're 3-0 with Zach Wilson, and they're going to Denver in a game that I think that they should be able to win and go 5-2. And then, I told you guys before the season, if you've been following my content, I said this Jets team was going to have a 500 record or above, a 10-7, 9-8 football team. And right now they look pretty darn good. But why is that? And how good are they? We talked about the quarterback. The quarterback's not really an issue for me, because the way that they are calling the game is that they are in such a good position to win football games without needing Zach Wilson to go, insane and just take over, because he hasn't had to do that. He's had to have good fourth quarters to come back, but he has not had to completely carry the team on his back, and he shouldn't, because that's not how this team is built. And it is built now, as we figured out, finally getting usage as the number one guy. I think the Jets finally see it. I think everybody sees it. Breece Hall, 7th in DVOA at running back, 13th in rushing yards this year, averaging 5.1 yards per carry. He's averaging almost a yard per carry more than expected, which is incredible there. 19 first downs, so he's become a real chain mover, in my opinion. And then he's 218 yards receiving to top it off. So when you factor in all these different things about him, and obviously I'm a big fan of Michael Carter, but Breece Hall is just different. I mean, you're looking at the next, top-notch bell cow running back. I mean, he's one of the best already in football. I think if you gave him 25, 30 touches a game, the Steelers did last year with Najee Harris, I think he'd be leading the league in rushing, if I'm being quite honest. I think he's looked the best. When his number is called, he is very good. 5.1 to 3.8 with Michael Carter says a lot, in my opinion. So I think really what has allowed the Jets to ascend here is that run game, and it's really been revitalized by going out and getting Breece Hall in the second round of the 2022 NFL Draft. And now they're using him. And it feels like each week his usage increases. And that's something that's very important. So it tells me that Mike LaFleur sees it, Saleh sees it, everyone sees it. And I think it's only going to help out Zach Wilson, open up the play action, passing attack, and now open up everything for Zach Wilson when he gets more confidence. I still think he's not as confident as we've seen him in the past. It's going to get there. I really believe that. And they continue to win. So I believe that you're only going to have stuff, mount on top of other stuff, and it's going to be better for him. So the run game is a big reason why I believe they're good. But again, how good are they? We keep going. The wide receivers. Corey Davis is having a crazy year, because I didn't think Corey Davis would even be the wide receiver 3 on this team. I thought he'd be overshadowed. But here he is, 19th DVOA wide receiver. He has the 5th most targeted air yards in the league. He averages 18.5 yards per reception, has 351 yards and 2 touchdowns on 19 receptions. I understand a lot of that came on, a prayer that Flacco threw, but regardless, Corey Davis has been the deep threat. He's been the guy that they paid him to be. And that is an exciting thing if you're a Jets fan, because you already knew you loved Elijah Moore. You already knew you loved Garrett Wilson. I mean, 10th overall pick, Garrett Wilson, who you watched at Ohio State. But now Corey Davis is starting to come into his own. So this is a good sign for the Jets. Garrett Wilson has 24 receptions for 290 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's weird because the majority of that was with Joe Flacco. Now, I will say this. Joe Flacco was more of a risk taker, but I feel like he had to be. I don't feel like they had quite had the confidence in Breece Hall to get that run game going. I don't think they had confidence in the offensive line. The protection wasn't there. The run blocking wasn't there. So I think things have changed. So if Flacco was playing in this offense right now, I think he could also win football games because he'd be able to play in more a conservative approach. But I do think that, you know, it is a little surprising to see Garrett Wilson not get as many targets and see Corey Davis still getting those targets, which you would have expected, but not as surprising as Elijah Moore only having 16 receptions for 203 yards. He's somebody I expected to see more, out of him. My big, bold prediction, though, coming into this year is that I see a lot of production, but nobody going over 1,000 yards. Breece Hall's going over 1,000 yards, and there's a chance one of these receivers could be Corey Davis, but we'll see. Tyler Conklin with 22 receptions for 208 yards and a touchdown. He's also tied with Hayden Hurst for most average yards of separation. I said it when they got him. I'll say it again. What a pickup. He really made a lot of sense for the Jets. He made no sense for the Vikings to let go, but what a pickup for the Jets. Really impressed with Tyler Conklin and what he does and what he brings to this team. And then you look at Braxton Berrios, who's this kind of jitterbug, energizer bunny type of, gadget guy, right? I mean, you look at him, 100 total yards, 2 touchdowns. He's been utilized more as a runner, and it's worked well for the Jets. And so I really like where they're going, the direction they're going in. This offense isn't anywhere near where it could be, and that's exciting because they're already 4-2, and I feel like the offense can get better, and the defense feels like it's in mid-season form. So before we get into the defense, let's talk about the offensive line because it's been a journey for them. It has been a real journey. Dwayne Brown is finally back. They signed him, and thank God they did. I remember making the video and saying, oh man, this needed to happen with Mekhi Becton going down. They were interested in Dwayne Brown regardless if Mekhi Becton was okay or not. So when Mekhi Becton went down, that became a need, and they went out and got him. He's back. He's only allowed 1 pressure in 2 games. Looks great. That's exactly what the doctor ordered with Fant out. You needed him to play the way he is at left tackle, really providing that protection, the blind side, giving, Zach Wilson some confidence there. He's been huge. In addition to that, the offensive line started off poorly and, early on, but in weeks 5 and 6, I think they've really, dialed it up. Only 10 pressures given up, and I believe only a couple sacks. I mean, they've really played well as of late. And with all the injuries, the Jets are now deploying a completely new offensive line. Dwayne Brown at left tackle, Laken Tomlinson, obviously he was there, at left guard. Connor McGovern was there at center. Nate Herbig is now in the rotation at right guard, and then right tackle is Elijah Vera Tucker, who is supposed to be a guard. And since he switched to guard, man, it has been a dream for the Jets. He looks so much better at tackle. You look at him moving over to tackle, he has not allowed a sack and has only given up 5 pressures in 3 games. I just think he's going to continue to get better there, and I think the Jets are better for having used him in that position because I knew coming out of USC, he was a guard, he was a tackle, he could play all over the offensive line, and I think I like him more at tackle, just seeing the way he's been, kind of just changed everything over there. He's been a lot more comfortable. You look at McGovern, he's only allowed 1 sack and 6 pressures all season long. I think that's pretty darn good. And Tomlinson, everybody got on week 1, and rightfully so. It was abysmal. He gave up 8 pressures, but since week 1, he's only given up 8 pressures and no sacks. So, really the moral of the story here is that, it's amazing, but even though there are all sorts of moving pieces and everything with the offensive line, The Jets seem to have found that secret formula. They have the left tackle there, Dwayne Brown. They moved Elijah Vera Tucker and used his versatility to put him at right tackle. So you solidify both tackle spots, which is imperative to succeed in the NFL and keep your quarterback upright. And then your interior spots, you paid big money for a former Pro Bowl left guard in Laken Tomlinson. At right guard is Nate Herbig, who was on the Eagles last year. So you look at that, and then you look at center, and it's like, okay, now you have McGovern, who's a top 10 center, arguably. And this offensive line all of a sudden looks pretty darn good. It looks good. I mean, this team is 4-2. This offense is nowhere near is where it could be. And they're winning football games, and they're winning them in blowouts. They just beat the Packers 27-10. They are blowing out teams, and it is an impressive thing to watch. And we haven't even gotten to the main culprit of this, which is the defense. That's right, the defense. I know it's shocking. Robert Saleh and his defense doing well, right? That doesn't happen. Wrong. You look at the defense, and obviously, like, you got guys like CJ Mosley, they paid a premium for, and I mean, rightfully so. At the time, it made sense. I still think he's overpaid, but he does lead the team in tackles with 62. He has so many tackles that he has more solo tackles than the next man has total tackles, which says a lot. But the big thing here on the defensive side, and the big leader, happens to be Quinnen Williams. He is off to a crazy start, folks. He's got 5 sacks, 4 TFLs, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. We're already talking about him on the short list for Defensive Player of the Year because he has been magnificent for a really tough defense to go up against. The pass rush has been the backbone of this team, whether it's Carl Lawson, Sheldon Rankins, Jermaine Johnson, John Franklin Myers, Jacob Martin, Quincy Williams, rushing, as a blitzer. They've racked up 14 sacks through the first 6 games and have generated 112 pressures on the quarterback in the first 6 games. That's incredible. That's one of the highest pressure rates in the league. And then you look at Quan Alexander, they get him right before, preseason, and Quan Alexander has been a huge upgrade. He's been great against the run. He's been this energizer bunny on the defensive side, and he's been exactly what the doctor ordered. You look at Sauce Gardner, the rookie. I said this coming out, and I'll say this again. Sauce Gardner is the best cornerback in this draft, and when they drafted Sauce Gardner, they didn't just get a really good rookie that has a high floor and a high ceiling. They got a superstar. I mean, we're talking about Sauce Gardner at the end of this season being potentially in the top 5 of corners. He looks unbelievable. He's already making his case for Defensive Rookie of the Year. He has an opponent passer rating when targeted of 54.2, and on top of that, teams are only completing 13 of their 30 passes thrown to him for 135 yards. He has 7 pass breakups and interception. He did give up a touchdown, but this guy has been magnificent in coverage. He's a willing tackler. He's a big-bodied corner. You just love to see it, and that's exactly what the Jets wanted when they went out and got him. I know everyone was talking about Stingley. They've been talking about Stingley since the guy came out of high school, and he was at LSU, and his freshman tape and all of that. But I was saying all along, Sauce Gardner, Stingley will be really good, and Stingley's having a good year, but Sauce Gardner is absolutely special. We're talking Jalen Ramsey, Darrelle Revis. We're talking that level of superstar talent. And I think a big reason why the Jets are succeeding is the pass rush, but then also having guys like Sauce Gardner. Reason I said, guys, we'll wrap this up here. DJ Reed has been very good. He's only allowing an opponent passer rating of 51.2. He's 14 of 27 for 138 yards, and he has not allowed a touchdown. DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner, that tandem. You have LaMarcus Joyner coming down with 2 interceptions. You have Jordan Whitehead's usage in the run support department. This defense is brand new. They have changed everything and just done a little bit, but it just feels so different. This Jets team feels real. This is a real team. I'm not sitting here and saying, how good are they? I'm sitting here saying they are good. Okay. They're very good. And they are only just scratching the surface on how good they can be. And until people realize that, they're just going to keep saying it's the same old Jets. They'll figure out another way to lose or they'll blow it. And I just don't think that's the right approach here. I think when you look, first off, the Baltimore game, okay, that was one of those games where I was like, if you got a healthy Zach Wilson, you win that game. The biggest issue with the Baltimore game is that Joe Flacco was under immense pressure, like all over that game. Over 20 pressures in that game Baltimore generated, and they had every opportunity. The defense generated a ton on Lamar Jackson, and eventually the defense broke because they lost 24-9, so they didn't really break. But when you're not getting any support from your offense, that's what's going to happen. So you're looking at that. Maybe that game played tomorrow, the Jets are winning that game. So you look at that game. Then you look at Cleveland. Cleveland was up by 2 possessions, and the Jets came back for the historic 31-30 comeback, which was insane. And Joe Flacco led that like 1 minute and 30-second comeback. Well, it doesn't matter how they won because now they're 1-1 instead of 0-2, which completely shifts the season. An 0-2 season, now all of a sudden you think, okay, who really makes the playoffs starting 0-2? But you beat the Browns, now you're 1-1. So then you move to Cincinnati, you have a bad stinker of a game, right? You go up against the former AFC title winners, the reigning AFC champions, and you lose at home. It's not a great look. Joe Flacco's final game, they lose 27-12. Then after that, Joe Flacco's gone, and insert Zach Wilson. He comes back from his injury. He goes up against a tough Steelers defense. I know TJ Watt's out, but that defense is still very good. We saw it shut down Tampa this past week. They go into Pittsburgh, which is a tough place to win, and they win 24-20 with everything going on about Kenny Pickett this, Kenny Pickett that. They were able to win that game 24-20, move to 2-2, and put their season on the right track. And then came the Miami game. And this game was close for a little bit. Actually, it was close for a little bit longer than I expected. But despite the fact that obviously Miami doesn't have Tua Tagovailoa, but you see the way they played a tough 5-1 Vikings team last week. This Dolphins team is a decent football team even without Tua. So when they have Tua, they're going to be very good. But the Jets beat them 40-17, moving to 3-2. And then you had the game in Lambeau that no one, even including me, I'll say this right now, I'm a big fan of what the Jets are doing, but I could not see Green Bay losing 2 straight to 2 New York teams. I couldn't see them losing to the Giants, and they beat the Giants. And then I just couldn't see in Lambeau Zach Wilson finding a way to beat this team. Well, Zach Wilson didn't have to beat this team. He did in the stat sheet, in the win column, whatever you want to call it. But the point of this, and the thing that worked so well for the Jets, is that when they played Green Bay, they had a plan of attack. They kept Zach Wilson's passing yards down, 110. They didn't force anything. They got things going with Breece Hall. They got those explosive plays. They had special teams plays that were huge. Everything just kind of, it was all 3 phases coming together. They put immense pressure on Aaron Rodgers and completely stifled that team. And so that, even though that game was close for a little bit, the Jets prevailed in a 27-10 fashion, going 4-2. And now the next 3 games before the bye, week 7 going into this game, you have Denver. You're in Denver. It's not an easy place to play because of the elements, because of the altitude, and sometimes it really can affect players that aren't ready for it. It's a 4:05 game. You're going up against Russell Wilson. You're going up against a Denver team that is struggling, but I do think the Jets can win. I do think they can put pressure on Russ, and I do also think that while Denver's defense is really good, I think they're really good against the pass, but I think you can run on them. And so I think Breece Hall becomes a need against Denver, and I think he'll step up to really be the guy in that game, moving them to 5-2. And then you have the New England Patriots. You come back to MetLife and you play the New England Patriots. I like the way they're playing. It's week 8. I still think the Jets can win that. Now all of a sudden you're talking about 6-2 here, going and staying in MetLife to play the Buffalo Bills to go 7-2 going into the bye. And this is a real thing. I understand people are probably looking at this, seeing that they're probably going to end up going 4-5 or 5-4, but I really don't think so. I think there's a good chance that they go into the bye winning at least 6 games. They beat Denver, they beat New England, they probably lose to Buffalo, but I don't even rule that out because stranger things have happened, and it is a division rivalry game. Same thing with New England. So I'll say this, going into the bye, the Jets could be 7-2. There's a potential there. But 6-3 football team is pretty darn good, going into week 10, which would be the bye week. Coming out of it, you have New England, you have Chicago, then you have Minnesota, Buffalo, Detroit, Jacksonville, Seattle, and Miami. The Jets, if they go into the bye at 6-3 at the very least, come out and say they lose to New England at 6-4, they beat Chicago 7-4, we'll give Minnesota that 7-5, Buffalo on the road 7-6, but then they beat Detroit 8-6, beat Jacksonville 9-6, beat Seattle 10-6, and they could totally beat Miami 11-6 if they run that table. We're talking about an 11-6 football team, a defense that no one wants to play, generates a ton of pressure, and I only think they're going to be getting better. As long as they stay healthy, they can really do this. So how good are the Jets? To answer your question, took a while. They're really darn good, and they're really scary. I know it sounds funny, but get rid of those preconceived notions, start listening, start watching. And I'm telling you right now, if you have not been paying attention to the Jets, they've been doing this behind the scenes, you have not been paying attention to them, you're going to see. Because I'll tell you right now, you're only going to see one game on primetime for them. They're going to be playing on Thursday against Jacksonville, week 16. I would not be surprised if we get a flexed game where they get on primetime. They're going to be in contention for that. So we'll see what happens, but the next 3 games are very crucial. It's going to say a lot. I believe they beat Denver, they beat New England, and we're looking at a potential 7-2 start if they can take down Buffalo going into the bye. But that's all I got for you guys. I think the Jets are really darn good. I'm going to say that over and over again because I really believe it. I think it was pretty obvious when Robert Saleh had to cut certain players, and you saw no team was plucked more off of waivers during the cut day than the Jets. They lost 7 guys to waiver claims. That kind of told you this roster might be a little different. This roster might be better than people think, and I think we're going to see that. So hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to smash that like button, smash the subscribe button. If you are a Jets fan, if you're a Rams fan, you enjoy this, be sure to do that as well. If you're a Rams fan, you're upset that I put a Jets video out, just understand that I cover both teams, and I do way more Rams videos, so please do not hold that against me. But I promise you Jets fans out there that follow my content, I will get back on this. We will continue to have more Jets content. I'm excited about this team. I've been watching every single game, and I really believe that this team is going to be a team that you do not want to face at any point the rest of the year. So that's it for me. I'm Jake Ellenbogen signing off until next time. You guys take care. Later.